pretty.
It's pretty loud in the background.
Yeah.
My headset for my computer doesn't work right now.
Hi, this is Tiffany Cano with the Knowing You Show. And today we have Deidre Sirianni, a sister healer up in Canada. Sorry we're going on a little bit late, but my power is out. So my Wi-Fi is out and I am going to plan B and using my cell phone for this. So, we just roll with it, flow with the universe. And Deidre and we have a lot of similar beliefs about spirituality and healing and being aligned and congruent at a soul level. And I think this is going to be a fantastic episode for you guys to participate in. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Okay, so Deidre is a TedX speaker, activator of truth, human awakening, and impact entrepreneurship. Deidre is the founder of Radically Aligned Life and is an accelerated evolution guide who believes the foundation of everything comes down to living in alignment with your purpose and truth. Her work dissolves mental, emotional, and physical barriers that are pulling you out of alignment with your higher purpose and from living it fully. She supports people to reach their next level of fulfillment, joy, and success through blending the metaphysical laws and tools with the practical for accelerated results. Her mission is to wake as many people up in her life to the truth of who they are and who they're meant to be. So please welcome Deidre to the show.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany. This is beautiful.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, you and I do a lot of healing work with traumas, with wounds, with imprints, things that are getting in the way of people not being able to live the best version of themselves. And I know you do a lot of work with entrepreneurs directly. And I want to talk a little bit about unhealed traumas and tell us some of those signs, unhealed traumas that you see in people and how that shows up in their life.
Absolutely. So the interesting thing about unhealed trauma is it shows up everywhere, right? It shows up in our relationships, the relationships that we attract. It shows up with the relationship with ourself, our self-worth. It shows up with our ability to receive abundance through our business, our ability to put our message out into the world and really make the impact that we're here to make. And then there's also like the very specific signs and symptoms of unhealed trauma. I truly believe that we've all experienced trauma and that it's really misunderstood. And so many people think that in order to experience trauma, it means something horrible has happened to them. And they may even have an image or a thought of what it looks like. However, trauma is anything that we have not been able to fully feel deeply and move through that has left some sort of impact on our life. So it can be something as simple as having a really strong experience around money. And then because of that in our life and business, having a hard time asking for abundance or being able to receive. Can also show up with manifesting relationships of abuse or manifesting relationships where we don't feel the way that we truly want to feel and being in any kind of pattern that is undesirable, which is just, part of the lessons of life, as you know. And so the ways that unhealed trauma can show up, it definitely shows up as addiction. Addiction, there's different types of addiction. There's the addiction of consuming. So alcohol and food, right? Those are
Mhm.
consuming addictions that usually come from having a heartbreak at some point, which can be very traumatic. And then there's the addictions where we are avoiding feeling something, which can be being a workaholic, which can be exercising all of the time, obsessing about how much food we are consuming or not consuming, among other addictions. And that can come from a place of avoiding feeling something. Whereas the consuming of food and alcohol, it's like we're trying to fill a feeling that maybe we didn't receive, or to really, again, avoid feeling something. So addiction 100% is a sign of unhealed trauma. And also, regular anxiety. This is something that's being talked about everywhere right now. Anxiety. Well, what can you do when you feel anxious? It's like, breathe, listen to your body, and all of that. However, if you have regular anxiety, the root cause always comes down to unhealed trauma, because our body is going into this state of fight or flight, and the anxiety is coming up because when we experience a trauma, it affects our physical state, our energetic space, our emotions, and our thought patterns. And we're constantly being triggered by our reality. So having regular anxiety, dis-ease in the body is a sign that we are disassociating from a part of ourself that we don't want to accept, which can show
Mhm.
up in different parts of our body, right, as manifestations of disease. And really, any kind of cycle that you're in that doesn't feel the way you want to feel, any kind of pattern of self-numbing, avoiding, self-sabotaging, not being able to receive money, having challenges with money, having challenges with speaking your truth and putting yourself out there. These are all symptoms of unhealed trauma, because if we didn't have this trauma, well, who would we be? We would be ourselves. We would
Mhm.
know who we are. And I love the name of your show, Tiffany, Knowing You, because it's really about knowing ourselves. And so unhealed trauma is a way that we are disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from our reality. And really, when we are in a space of operating from default settings that maybe we're not even fully conscious of. So it shows up in so many different ways, and it's super interesting. The more that you dive into it, the more I've realized that it truly is the root cause of all suffering, because it causes us to step away from ourselves, to betray ourselves, to play small, to go to substances and behaviors that are not aligned with our true identity, which is our infinite self.
Mhm. Yes. So important to
Mm,
do that inner reflection and just to see what areas of my life aren't working and what unhealthy addictions are there, what unhealed traumas are there. And, I think it requires a lot of bravery and courage to be willing to do that inner work
mhm.
because at least right now 2020 is like the year of shadow, like healing the shadow, the opportunities to heal the shadow side of ourselves, of our nation, of this world. So when we can start like one at a time, like within ourselves, we can have that ripple effect on healing the shadow within humanity. So
Mhm.
thank you for being my sister in arms and, and light warriors on this adventure.
Yeah, quite the
So I'm also curious to hear your definition, so to speak, of what you think the difference between an imprint and a trauma is from your perspective.
I love this. I use both of them interchangeably, and really an imprint is anything that we haven't been able to process, right? So any moment in time in our life, positive, like a positive experience of getting a lot of affirmation for something, or potentially even something really negative feeling around something, an action, or a way of being is a trauma or an imprint. I like to use the word imprint for positive things that have happened to us. So I work with people who are, impact-driven entrepreneurs, and sometimes in our life we can go and create this whole identity of who we are. We can create this whole business, this whole movement, this personality of who we are. And from the outside looking in, we may be very successful and we may be constantly chasing success, right? And getting really good at checking things off the list. And that can come from an imprint. So, perfect example, if you were to have a lot of affirmation from a family member, a teacher, or someone in your past where it was like, when you do this, you get a lot of affirmation, right? And so that imprint of, oh, I need to be a high performer. Oh, I need to be this person. That can be an imprint because it's not necessarily a negative or it's not an undesired feeling in the moment. It can be a lot of affirmation, but it leaves an imprint on you. However, it can result in the same kind of behavior, becoming a workaholic. It can be not being attached to people, right? It can be any kind of imprint that you have that is causing you to take actions that go against your true identity, your infinite self, that's causing you to take actions that aren't aligned with how you feel and what is truly aligned with yourself, your highest self, and who you're meant to be. Whereas trauma, I like to use the word trauma more for anything that has happened that, is an undesirable moment in time. Maybe that could be something where you were physically abused, or a moment where something scary happened to you and you weren't able to process. But essentially, they're very much the same. It just is really about your perspective of the moment in time and what happened. However, the results long term of having that not being completed are the same, and they show up in different ways. So some people I've worked with that have very large businesses or are very well known for what they've been doing in life, they can have a very strong imprint of affirmation to be a certain way. So they've built up this massive business or this massive movement, and they're so obsessed with work. They have an addiction towards work or addiction towards being a specific person, a personality that they've identified themselves as. But on the other side of things, it's causing them pain, disharmony, and blocking them from really experiencing the full essence of their being and their life. So that's how I like to define both of them, because I interchangeably use both of them. However, they're both imprints. Trauma is just typically used for an undesired experience that you've had.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And in either case, bringing in God's light, God's love, God's power, God's healing to those, to illuminate, heal, transmute them is so important and so powerful. And I know that you have a program that you use called Turn Your Light On. And that so resonates with me because, we're all beings of divine light. It's just some of us actively choose to engage in that and do spiritual practices and grow our light, expand our light, brighten our light, and others are just addicted to, the status quo, and we're just would rather, keep their head in in the sand or something. So those of us who are into consciousness work, turning our light on and getting it brighter and brighter and more expanded is how we can continue to be of service. And I want you to talk to us about what you mean by, turning on your light and the scale that you use, and describe it a bit more.
Absolutely. So there's 4 stages that I've developed. There's so many different stages of, consciousness. This is what I like to use with the work that I do. And so the 4 stages are, stage number 1 is your light is off. And so I like to think of being in the middle of the forest or the jungle, in the middle of the night, and you have no light. If you think about that, in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of the night, by yourself, no light, it's a little bit scary, right? And so when we're at stage 1 and our light is off, we have fear. We have fear of moving forward because we can't see what's in front of us or to the side. So we tend to stay stuck. And we experience potentially depression at this stage, chronic dis-ease or chronic pain in the body, and a lot of anxiety and other symptoms of dis-ease, discomfort in the body. Usually at this stage, and this is a scaling scale because you can dip from one to the other depending on what's going on in your life and different areas of your life. But we'll do a broad scale today. Is because everything's constantly moving, right? Nothing is definite. And so also at this stage, we're typically disconnected from our purpose. We're disconnected from our intuition. We have fear of moving forward. You may have an idea that there is more to life, but you haven't been able to, you have fear of moving forward. So this is the stage where we feel paralyzed, where we're stuck, and we're in this potentially negative cycle of not moving forward or creating the change that we truly want, what our soul wants. We're disconnected from our body. We're disconnected from others. And the interesting thing about this stage is years ago when I was at this stage, I was a high-performing level 1. And there are a lot of high-performing level 1s. From the outside looking in, it might look like you're in your I love how you're laughing because you're like, I see it. I know what you're talking about. At this stage in level 1, you might be a high performer. You might be really successful in your career. You might have a beautiful family. It might look like a beautiful life that you feel like you should be grateful for. You feel like you should feel differently than you do about your current reality. However, on the inside and on a personal level, you're experiencing stage 1. However, in this stage, you're not in your soul's purpose. And because of it, it's like numbing or cutting off parts of yourself in order to fit into a box of who you are in this current state, and who people expect you to be. And you're caught in your personality, which essentially is your past, who people think you are, who you think you are, who you think you should be, who other people think you should be, your past trauma and your belief systems, your patterns, and all of that, which is why your light's off, because it's like, well, what is beyond this? I don't know. And I don't really want to know, because in order for me to do that, I probably have to step away from everything that I know in order to find out who I am. And so that is stage 1. And I feel like your giggles, you want to contribute something. So please jump in and share. Like, you are super.
Well, I can see which people, have been in my life of, of different stages. Like I can think of certain family members or, people, earlier in my life who, were just not into personal growth and development and not living their purpose.
Yeah.
And then I've also spent time traveling the world to be with holy masters and saints and spiritual teachers that are probably, like super high on your light scale, and I love being around them. So describe your other couple of stages, if you would, please.
Beautiful. So that's stage 1. And as I mentioned, depression, disease, all of that is there, but you may be a high performer and you might even look like you have it all together, or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't look that way. And then stage 2 is the flickering light. So sometimes you've got a lot of energy and I feel amazing. I'm on purpose. Everything is going so well for you. And then something in your subconscious is triggered from past trauma, circumstances, events, and all of a sudden you contract and you go back to stage 1. So it's this expansion contraction phase. And so sometimes you show up really powerfully and sometimes you don't. So you lack in this stage usually self-trust, because you're in this dance of expansion, contraction. And so from the outside looking in, people are like, sometimes you show up really powerfully and sometimes you don't show up at all. And at this stage, what you need most is stabilization, support, and really to feel safe being who you are and doing that deeper work of healing your trauma, which is also valuable at stage 1. And at this stage, it's an interesting space to be in because you don't necessarily trust yourself because you're in this dance. You have a hard time committing to your purpose. And you may feel frustrated, like, why do I keep, what is it that allows me to really have my light on and show up powerfully, and what's throwing me out of alignment? So also what's really important here is to not only heal your trauma, but understanding your triggers, which are usually, you're not necessarily aware of them. And this is where a lot of people come to me at because they're like, I don't know why I'm not showing up like this all of the time. And so that's the biggest frustration at this stage. And because it's a dance between expansion and contraction, it's very much like, is it safe to be who I am? And so it's typically like everything needs to be good externally for you to be in that space of flow and having your light on. So that's stage 2. And then there's stage 3. Stage 3, your light is on so bright in all directions, right? And this is a really fun stage to be in because you have a lot of energy, you've got a lot of ideas, you're saying yes to everything, and but the problem is your energy is typically leaking everywhere. You haven't mastered your energetics, and you tend to overcommit to other people's visions, other people's projects, what's going on around you, rather than focusing on that one thing that on a deep soul level, you know that you're here to move forward. So this is a very high level way of having upper limiting behavior. And so from the outside looking in, it looks like, wow, you have all these opportunities, you have all this stuff going for you. But internally, there's this feeling of, I need to retract from people because I feel exhausted. I feel burnt out. Maybe not making the kind of impact that you want, not making the kind of abundance you want. And this feeling of like, I can't do it all, and not really moving that one thing forward. And you kind of have shiny, not object syndrome, but this is a shiny opportunity syndrome where you're saying yes to everyone. And the reason why you can see it. You can see it again. Hey, I love it. Because on a deep level, you're saying yes to everyone else because you get a quick hit of, I'm great at this, so I'm going to say yes. You keep getting external validation potentially for what you're good at, and you're avoiding doing the one thing that you may not be getting external validation from because it's your path. You're not supporting someone else's mission, someone else's vision. And you're laughing. Give it up, girl. What's happening over there?
Well, I can just see different people in different stages that you're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, so it makes sense to me. It's not just woo woo. It has a tangible component to it that I'm seeing.
Absolutely. And then there's stage 4. And this is like this stage that we all want to be at because we're in a state of flow. We've moved through resistance. We are focused, laser focused on where we're going. So our light's on, but it's laser focused. So we've quieted the noise. We don't say yes to, you could say, the low hanging fruit in your life, the opportunities. You're so on path. You're in flow. All of the right people are showing up for you all of the time because you're radically committed to your vision, to your mission. And this is the space of leadership. From the outside looking in, people know you potentially for what you do, for your company, for your mission. And there's no getting in your way. People know that if you are going to be a part of a project, it needs to be already on your path. It needs to be already in flow. And this is the place where you are creating a legacy, and you are overflowing with abundance. You are overflowing with opportunity. You are overflowing with energy because your energy is directed. And this is the space of self-mastery, really, and having your light on, but it's laser focused in one direction. And doesn't matter what's going on around you, you continue to move that thing forward all of the time. And this is the state where, as you know, Tiffany, like synchronicities every single day. It's not even like, it's not even a thing you talk about because it's just a thing that you experience every single day.
Yes. It feels so good to be in the flow.
Yeah.
And to have everything lined up, and it's like the universe just providing, giving things that we didn't even yet ask for, but the universe knows that we needed that for, this project or this something. I
Yes.
love that feeling.
Yes. And in this stage, in stage 4, there's this deep self-trust. There's this deep acceptance of who you are and who you're meant to be. And you've tapped into your infinite self. You're not playing in old patterns and cycles of your personality. Of course, they're going to come up, right? Because we're human and we've always potentially been a certain way. But when they come up, it's like, okay, I might need support for this. I'm going to move through this, but this isn't going to get in my way. And it's very conscious. It's like, oh, I may have a want to do that, but that's not aligned with this. So if it's not aligned with my values and my missions, it's a no. And it's a really powerful stage to be at because this is a space of big time manifestation and flow. And it's really fun to play in this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel in my work, I'm definitely in this stage 4. Yet when I was doing my tax prep, I was more like 3 and some moments in 2, you know. And then yeah, so it's interesting, like different events can happen in our life or experiences, and how much of our light are we owning and being at any given time.
Yes, yes. And what I love about this stage is you know who you are and you're also not compromising. So one of the
Mhm.
biggest things that I've realized in my own life and from supporting others is that when you stop compromising, right? When you
Mhm.
stop settling, that word is really potent when it comes up. I settled for so many years in many areas of my life to please others, to be in the space of, who people thought I should be or old belief systems that were outdated. And it caused me to continue to settle. And settling is really a slow poison that we take every day that essentially is numbing our soul and keeping us small and causing us to create chaos and a resistance in our life. And essentially,
Mhm.
it boxes us into a space of our comfort zone that prevents us from showing up as who we are. So, settling is a slow poison. So, I remind myself as often as possible, am I compromising here? And I understand in different areas of life, there's some, give and take with everything, and if you can trust in yourself enough, if you can wait enough for what it is to be true and that's aligned for you, it will show up for you as long as you're not saying yes to things that aren't it. And when you're in the itness, when you're in your purpose, when you're being in your flow, you never ask yourself, is this it? Because it is it. It's like getting your favorite meal, Tiffany, and when you're eating it, you're not like, is this it? No, you are so in the itness. There's no question if it's it. So that's the same
Yeah.
thing. You're radically aligned with who you are and who you're meant to be. There's no question. And that's stage 4.
Love it. Love it. All of this, resonates with me. I remember, even just from our first interaction with one another, that I felt like we had a lot of alignment and congruence with, who we are as souls and beings of light and servants of the divine. So thank you very much for all that you're sharing with me, with us, with the world. And if someone wants to continue to play with you and learn from you and receive healing and insights, what's the best way to do that?
Well, there's my website. It's radicallyaligned.com. I can add it into the chat box here. So I'll just add that in. And also today, I am giving away a 60-minute session with me to anyone who's watching to experience some of the work.
You put it in the private chat. Can you put it into Facebook? Because I
Yes.
can't add it in with my phone setting.
So comment. Okay, I'm going to, okay, one moment here. So, am I able to do it after this is done? Am I able to add my links in right after? Does that work for you, Tiffany?
It won't show up on everything.
Okay.
But
I will make sure to add it into your Facebook group so that anyone who wants to come and play can come and play. That'd be wonderful.
So if you're not yet in my Highly Perceptive People Academy Facebook group, please go there now and request to get in there. And that's where, these live streaming videos are playing and comments are there, and you can get access to Deidre's link. And
okay, I'm adding it right now into the chat. So that is my website. And then I'm also going to add in a link if anyone is wanting to do a 60-minute session with me. I am going to offer this up to anyone who is watching right now to book a session with me within the next week. Okay, so what that means is that this link is going to expire this week. So take action, click on it, and you can book in a one-on-one session with me to activate yourself, activate your highest gifts. That's some of the work that I do. I do trauma work, help people move through different parts of themselves and really connect with their highest self, their highest purpose, their highest mission, among other things. It's all about releasing and healing, integrating change, activating your highest gifts, and then co-creation at an accelerated rate. And that is my gift to anyone who is watching in the here and now. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
my pleasure. Thanks for being on today. Much love and blessings to all. And as a quick reminder, this Wednesday we'll be doing another Blessings for Humanity call. And, there'll be blessings for humanity, people who've been affected by all the fires and earthquakes and hurricanes and derecho and natural disasters and COVID and job loss and been suffering. So please join me on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific and participate in this guided meditation and group healing and just bringing more love and kindness into this planet, because we could all use that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me in your space, Tiffany. I love your work and what you're doing in the world. And it's so nice to have people like you in my court to play with and to collaborate with and to support each other's communities. So thank you for doing this work.
Indeed, my pleasure. Namaste.